I had an awesome question from somebody the other day, and the question was, what do you do with your old oil? And I love questions like that because that means that somebody wants to do the right thing and they just need the information. So hold me back. I'm going to totally go after this and make sure to get the good information out there. The way that I deal with used oil or similar fluids is like this. I use a catch basin like this to catch the oil in to begin with, and then I use a 5-gallon jug like this. This was a Kodak film jug at one point in its life before I recycled it into becoming an oil container. It used to be Kodak Polychrome Negative Plate Developer 956, and it's an amazing container for this because it pours so well. So what I do is I have a spill saver funnel, wide mouth antifreeze type funnel, and I just store them there anyway. But I'll put that in there. I'll take my container, take the end of it off, and then usually what I'll do is I'll have it positioned up against the shelf about that far, as you can see there, and then I take this and I pour it in. Just like that. And I graduated it. I had it in gallons, and I measured what a gallon is. I measured 2, 3, 4, up to 5, so I can see how many gallons are in. So if I drain a transmission and it drains into the pan, then I can measure approximately how many quarts I can get away with putting in the dipstick tube right off the bat. So it's a way to meter what I'm recycling, but it's also a way to do it clean. Like I say, I really like these Kodak containers on account of and then when I'm done I'll put the container like this so that it doesn't pool and drip out through the cap end. And then what we do, I think this one's empty for the most part. We'll drain what little is in there. But then I'll take the container, the Kodak one, and go to my local auto parts and oil suppliers. Same place where you buy the oil will typically take the oil from you in its used form. I was working on a contract for Mercedes-Benz out in Las Vegas, California, around Baker, and we're generating some expert witness stuff. We had to do all this calibration on a particular M-Class, and we had to put in all these fittings, and we had to put in a steel cage and all of these inclinometers and a laptop computer in the passenger side and duplicate this accident scene. Well, in process of doing all of that, we had to put certain, and of course they're really picky that everything has to be done perfect and professionally so that all of that work actually means something when you get to court. But anyways, the guy, they sent a mechanic out from Germany, and we had to have a little spilled brake fluid. And the dealer in Las Vegas was kind enough to let us use a lift there. They rented it. I don't know what happened there, but I just gave assistance. But we saved the brake fluid, and it equated to about half a quart of brake fluid. And normally it just goes in with the oil like everything else, just used fluids, and then it gets re-refined. Well, the guy was asking, well, what do I do with this? I don't want to throw it in the garbage. And I'm like, dude, it's half a quart. Nobody cares. He's like, are you serious? And so we throw it away, and he's like, man, you'd get fined so bad in Germany for doing this. And I was like, we're not Germans. Maybe we should be more than what we are, but it's just interesting. So my containers generally have a little brake fluid, a little bit of transmission, a little power steering, and mostly oil. But anyway, all of these things are accepted. You don't want to have any antifreeze in your bins. I'm probably divulging too much information. Watch this come back and bite me in the butt with a bunch of negative comments. But anyway, that's the way that it goes. Our used fluids go as such. When you lose oil, you usually lose some of these other fluids too, and they get in there anyway. So next step that we do is we pull the funnels, set them aside, and I'll take the cap, I'll cap this off, and it kind of reservoirs back here. That's actually gasoline in the top of that. We'll swab that out, so I don't want that spilling in the, I don't know what that is. Maybe, oh, you know what, I bet it's some of these cleaners That's what it is. It's blush white. See, I'm telling you, all kinds of crap gets in there that you never intend. What do? That didn't get in with the oil. That's just in on the top of the container. So I try to keep things clean, try to keep things orderly. But one of the laws of thermodynamics is entropy, which means that things left to their own accord don't organize themselves, but rather fall into chaos. So I take this and I put it in the back of the truck and I'll haul it off, and you can take it to Napa, you can take it to O'Reilly, you can take it to AutoZone. I've got a quarter to return anyway, so that's probably where we'll go. And pour it into their lube cube. Show you what that looks like. You'll see stickers or signs or something of the nature of that. It says that we accept used oil. As I said before, we're going to AutoZone today. Get into the zone. So this is my local one. Hi. I've got some used oil.
Yeah, you know where to dump it at back there?
I do. Thanks. So we'll walk into the back of the store, and then you see it says used oil only. And it says used oil includes these petroleum-based materials: motor oil, hydraulic oil, gear oil, transmission fluid, and power steering fluid. And the company that does it is Safety Clean. And so you'll always see these lube cubes, as they're often called, proximate to a door. There's the rolling door and the back door. And what happens is they have a truck that has a hose and a pump, and they just unbuckle this here. They'll pull that cap off. They'll put his hose on there, and this goes down into the bottom of the tank, and he'll just start running the pump from the truck, and he'll pump the oil out through the door, through the hose, and into his truck, and then they'll take it to be re-refined, if that makes sense. And they'll separate it and get it set up. What's interesting is a lot of the older diesels with a mechanical pump as opposed to an electric pump, they'll just they can run on any of these fluids pretty much, as long as they're filtered properly. They actually run really well on transmission fluid and hydraulic fluid, ironically. So the reason why I like this container is, unlike a 5-gallon bucket, which is extremely messy, this is actually pretty clean and pours really easily. So you can see I'm only doing this with one hand. It's easier with two hands, but you guys got to film, right? So if you have a blown head gasket or something like that, then you'll just have to collect that in another means other than recycling it, because if it's mixed with water or antifreeze or anything else, then they can't take it. Also, when you go to pour it in these tanks, it's got a kind of like a gas gauge. It's an oil gauge. This one's just a little less than half, but they've got a little thing that floats in there and pushes that up. It's on a little lever, toilet bowl kind of a thing, kind of a means. Plus, you know, you ever read somebody's patents or go into patent law or whatever? Everything has a means. This is a means for retaining the fluid within the container, and the container is a means for transporting it. Everything's means. It's kind of interesting. I was looking at the patent that Tom Ogle had on his super carburetors, and it just talks about means this and means that. So, keep everything nice and clean as we can. And that's the used oil thing. Look at all this. Do not leave your oil jugs. They get in trouble because they can't dispose of them. They're considered hazardous waste because they've been contaminated by oil. That's why it's nice to have some kind of a container that's reusable. For one, it's recycling, but two, you don't have to dispose of an oily container and have it wind up in the landfill. Dumping oil is a privilege. Clean up. Not everybody listens to that, but I try to when I can. So anyway, we'll close this for safety. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about recycling oil, just leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to field those questions. I support oil recycling. It makes sense. It's a good idea. It's a clean, good thing to do. So here we are at a Napa location, and they also accept used antifreeze, which is pretty cool. Looks like they have some kind of independent contractor. So, do you guys have a registry of logging oil?
Yeah, in the back.
Cool. You mind if I take a look? Thanks. See, again, this is the same kind of thing as the lube cube, but it's just a cage and plastic container, and you just pour it into the cone and you're good to go. This one you don't really need any kind of a level gauge on it because it's transparent, but it's the same thing, proximate to the door, and a truck will pull up and suck it in and then take it to be recycled. Different service, same process. So here we are at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And they got the same thing, used oil collection center, recycle for free. Do you guys take used motor oil?
Yes, we do.
Is it hard? How do you do it? What do I need to do?
You bring it into the store and we dump it and you sign an oil log.
Awesome, sounds easy to me.
Sounds easy.
Do you mind if I check out your tank?
That would be great.
Awesome, thanks.
Smile, you're on camera.
Smiling at me.
It's a maze.
I'm just making a video to teach people how easy it is to recycle oil.
Come back here. We just have this big oil tank. Lift the lid. We pour it in. We always
Awesome.
close the lid. Then there's an oil log up front to sign.
Sounds easy to me.
It's very easy.
Awesome, thank you.
Tells you what is acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Yeah. So, as it says on the safety clean log sheet, the acceptable oil is motor oil, gear oil, hydraulic oil such as brake fluid and power steering fluid, transmission fluid, and then it lists it separately, power steering fluid. But when you fill in the log, you just put in what the date is. Today's date is February 8th, 2012, and then you just put your name and then fill in whatever you're going to be recycling. So I live on 123 Street, or 123 is my house number, Oak Drive. And you put in your city and your state and your zip code and then the number of gallons. So I'm depositing 1 quart, so I'll just write 1 quart. And that's all that you've got to do. It's important to note that different cities and states will have statutes governing how much oil you can transport in your vehicle at one time. This particular state, the maximum that you can haul in your car is 5 gallons or 20 quarts of oil. So that's good to know. If you come in and I have a 40-gallon thing of oil and I say I'd like to recycle this, what do you tell me?
We're going to say, sorry, we can only take 5 gallons at a time.
Okay, and I say, well, I understand completely. Good for you for doing your job. And that's that. Now, Shelly brought up a really valid point as I was leaving. She says, she flagged me down in the parking lot. She says, make sure in your video that you put something about used oil containers. So we did that, but that they can't dispose of them there. But they also can't take the used oil filters either. And so with your pans, they're designed to drain them properly. You want to let them sit for a good enough time to where they drain out. You see it says drain filter here. The reason why they can't accept them is because they have oil that saturates inside of them, and it takes a while for them to drain properly. So you put your oil filter so that the O-ring goes onto that little thing and it'll drain down into the pan. And then once you're done with it, you can crush the oil filter by whatever means, run over it with your car or do something, I don't know. But basically you crush them and then you can submit them to be recycled, or you can just throw them in the trash. It's best to recycle them for the steel of it, but that's another thing to include. Hope you enjoyed my video. I hope this encourages you to want to recycle and to commit to some type of a container that will do a good job for transporting your used oil so that you don't have to dispose of your jug in the trash and put oil into the landfill. Now, with stuff like this, I don't know where you'd buy this. I got mine for free from my buddy. I bought these. I think I bought them on sale for like 15 bucks or 10 bucks or something. I keep 2 of them just because it seems like sometimes when something wants to spill, it'll spill down a frame and drip in 2 places, so I have 2 of them. And then I've got some backup containers. You can go to Salvation Army or Savers or some kind of a place and get some cookie sheets or whatever. and you can just pour those into your other bins. As for these little funnels, these are great. Like I say, these are just a spill saver, and they work great for getting them from one container to another container, and not a whole lot of expense involved in that. So anyway, hope you liked the video. If you did, you can click subscribe, see more videos like this. If you have any questions, like I say, leave them in the comments below, and if you want, you can click add to down arrow favorites and refer to this later. Thanks for watching.